And she came here and sat up and started other dance shows. Exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, any other
Rita.
she chased them all.
Good to see you.
Now, she adopted me.
Rabbi,
And she is friendly. And she's friendly to anybody who goes in the house.
Oh, thank you.
I think there's a new boss.
And I will not throw it
Is a new what?
A new boss at the Gutman house.
Oh my God. We're all scared of her. Oh my God. This is great. This is the best. Yes. And Leo has a new job. I'm so happy with this new job. He's at Best Buy on 41. And he loves it. Yeah, but school is winding down. And he's pretty much done. So this is for the summer. But when he goes back to school, there's Best Buys wherever you go. And they do, once you're in at Best Buy, you can, they do want you at other locations.
still with Nathan.
Yeah, closer than ever.
What a duo. I mean, they are so adorable.
They are so adorable. We went out to dinner with them Friday night after services. And in fact, Leo's transferring to college to be with Nate. At FAU in Boca Raton. Yeah.
Best friend in life.
Honestly, Richard, Leo is like this, and Nate's like this. And Nate brings Leo like this. Without Nate, Leo's like this. And vice versa. And Leo takes care of him in like in every little way. Nate takes care of him. So it's nice. No, we liked her, but that didn't work out. But it was nice to see Leo be so sweet to a girl. We like that. Hi. Mo's doing great. He's going to be home only for 2 weeks this summer, and it's coming soon. He's got a job in Houston. A big job, like an internship where if it goes well, they want to hire you. It's got 1 more year, but it's one of those internships that they're looking to hire you. It's a big firm. But anyway, let me go some other way, because it's just about time to start.
Singing all Saint with Kathy.
Everyone around is
Never knew. Yeah, right.
How are you, Rita?
And I nothing
At all. Which is fine. How about you?
long as that is going,
Yeah, we're good. Yeah, Shane and I are gonna start. Yeah.
Just be about middle season. Well, that's why you don't have a and then she's had a program that grants lives.
How are you?
Learning with one and then sing it. Give it a try. See how it works. We're not happy.
Hey, Shayna, are your two boys behaving themselves?
I just might enjoy it.
Jacob, you want to sit here or there?
I'll have to get up early that night. It's in my brain. And I don't have
If you know it, sing along. Olam chesed yibane, Olam chesed yibane, Olam chesed yibane, Olam chesed yibane, I will build. I will build this world from love. You will build this world from love. And if we build this world from love, then God will build this world from love. Olam chesed yibane, Olam chesed yibane,
Friends, welcome. Welcome to all who are here with us in the tent. Welcome to all who are at home or wherever you are tuning in and attending via the live stream. I'm glad you're here. I wish we weren't. I wish we didn't have to come together and feel the need to be with one another as our hearts ache and break with the news coming from Israel. As we see senseless violence carried out on the grandest of scales with rockets and jet planes. And we see violence carried out in the most intimate of scales. mobs in the streets, neighbors against neighbors. Friends, we wish we didn't have to be here. We didn't have to assemble with such urgency, with a day's notice, to come together. But we need to be together. We need to offer our prayers and our hopes as if somehow, through the power of God or just the very nature of our own goodwill, can somehow extend from us and reach those thousands of miles away and somehow bring the peace that we desire, the peace that the majority of peoples living in those areas desire. And we come together because here among our temple members, we can trust that we are of one mind when there is so many crazy extremist voices in the media, among our neighbors, on social media, and on the ground in Israel and in the territories. We're here because we love Israel. We love Israel enough to stop what we're doing and realize we need to be together, to not only say prayers, but to stand up in defense. We need to stand up in defense of a people's right to defend themselves. Many in the press are saying it all started when the police raided Al-Aqsa Mosque, the sacred mosque, and set about this series of events. But that wasn't the first act of violence, a raid. They raided because those inside Al-Aqsa Mosque and in its patio were throwing rocks. And if you know where Al-Aqsa Mosque is, it's on top of the Temple Mount. It looks down onto the Western Wall. You can't throw rocks without expecting a raid of police. And you can't launch missiles aimed at population centers, the sole intent to kill innocent civilians, without expecting a response for a nation to defend itself to the best of its abilities in a land, in a territory that is treacherous. And we come together because we understand that, and also because we understand that on both sides, this is a tragedy on top of a tragedy. That there are those being killed and beaten in Israel, in Gaza, in the West Bank, who are instigators, and there are those who are just innocent bystanders who didn't want any of this. And so that's why we're here together. We knew if we came together with our temple, we'd understand both of those sides, and that's what we're here to do. To support Israel, to express our love among fellow lovers of Israel, and to pray for peace, not just for Israel, but for the Palestinians, in a hope that we can just live together as neighbors in a land that we both claim as our own, a land that could support us all if we could just allow it. Friends, our first collective reading comes from Psalm 122. Let us read together. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. May all who love you know serenity. Peace be within your walls and tranquility within your citadels. For the sake of my brethren and my companions, I will now say, peace be within you. For the sake of the house of the Lord our God, I will seek our God. We will now hear a series of readings that are not in your program.
This reading was shared by Rabbi Dan Fink. I'm posting this, he says. I'm posting this on behalf of my daughter Rosa, who has made Aliyah and lives in Tel Aviv. I think it's an important statement that I, among many others, needed to hear. Rosa writes, a letter to my American friends. I'm sitting in the stairwell of my Tel Aviv apartment building at 3 a.m. with the sound of rockets exploding above my head. At this moment, I'm not thinking about who is right or which side is evil. I'm thinking that a rocket will shoot through the side of my apartment. I'm exhausted from the sirens ringing through the night. And I really, really have to use the bathroom. As I pull out my phone and start scrolling Instagram, I see everyone posting on the conflict here, a subject that is so sensitive and so real for me. There's an outpouring of strong opinions on the situation filled with passionately argued politics, some of which in normal times I share. Yet more often than not, in this moment, they entirely miss the point. When I see friends posting stories, but not reaching out to ask if I'm okay, I start crying. This is not commentary on who is right and who is wrong. This is about the people caught in the middle. Let's take this time to reach out to individuals who are affected by violence or oppression anywhere. Activism is important and necessary, but let's also remember to take care of one another.
This is an excerpt written by Rabbi Stacey Blank, checking in from Jerusalem 2021. Thanks to everyone who has reached out to see if we are okay. We are okay, thanks. But we, the Israelis and the Palestinians in this tiny land, are not okay. Monday was Jerusalem Day. I chose on Jerusalem Day to preserve the daily routine of my kids, so I did not participate in the distribution of flowers by Jews to Palestinians in the Old City in East Jerusalem. Instead, I sent them a donation to support the efforts. I picked up my kids from school, then I returned with the 7-year-old to our first school event since Corona. The kids played games and the parents chatted. It was a joyous reunion. Then I took my son to the community center for judo. While he was inside, I started a Zoom call with a family from the U.S. who hoped to hold a bar mitzvah in Jerusalem next year. People were organizing a blood drive in the yard. Then the siren started. We all looked at each other, hesitated, and then our instincts kicked in. I disconnected the conversation. I walked quickly inside the building. I waited for my son to come out of the judo room. I took his hand and called to people to follow us downstairs. The bomb shelter was open, and we all went inside. The kids asked, "Is this for real?" I texted my husband to get in touch with our other kids. My older son was biking home and was in the middle of the street with no building accessible. My husband spoke to him and told him what he needed to do in such a situation. We acknowledged how scary it was. After the 10 minutes passed, my son returned to judo. We go on. Afterwards, we spoke about it. Why were people sending rockets? There have been wars in the past. One side lost. Some people want to make peace and work to live together. Some people want to continue the war, and this is what they do. Our country knows how to protect itself and us, and we all do our part to help each other to be safe.
Rabbi Fred Gutman writes, "A few minutes ago, my son in Israel told me that from his balcony he witnessed more than 40 Iron Dome rockets attempting to shoot down Hamas missiles from Gaza. Unfortunately, one got through. He was not sure of the details. He thought it landed somewhere near Petach Tikva. My granddaughter is fast asleep, not in her room, but in a room known as Ma'amad. The Ma'amad is a concrete reinforced safe room with steel shutters. Usually this serves as the office or guest room." More from my son in Israel. "Abba, I have never seen it like this. It is amazing how many weapons they have accumulated. There was 20 minutes of solid continued firing at the center of the country. To date, Hamas has fired over 2,000 rockets. If you've been following the news from Israel, you know that there has been tension in Jerusalem regarding the Temple Mount in a neighborhood called Sheikh Jarrah. Many in Israel are concerned about right-wing settler agitation and police disproportionality targeting and injuring Palestinian civilian bystanders in the Old City. However, let there be no doubt that the firing of hundreds, and I do mean hundreds, of rockets at civilian centers in Israel cannot be justified, except as a terrorist act against the Jewish state. Sadly, anti-Israel activists have mounted an effort to flood our elected officials with false moral equivalence designed to undermine Israel's right to self-defense. That's why it's imperative that they hear from us. Messages in support of Israel can be left on congressional voicemails by calling the Capitol switchboard. A call like this only takes a minute or two. That, by the way, is a far greater amount of time than a typical Israeli family has to get to their safe room after a red alert goes off."
I ask you please to join me in a responsive reading, a prayer that will appear in the New Israeli Reform Siddur, written by Rabbi Ofer Sabbath Beit Halachmi, translated by my colleague, Rabbi Rachel Sabbath Beit Halachmi, PhD. Please, with the force of your right hand, spread over the protectors of our land the canopy of your peace. Lift your hand over them, save them from all enemy and ambush, from all bullets that threaten their souls. Give them strength and heart to distinguish between enemy and lover, between the people of wickedness and the people of Abraham. Please, with the great force of your right hand, guard the state of Israel, our eternal homeland, for the sake of exalting your name among all the inhabitants of the world. Please, with your force. Please, without use of force.
Sorry. This reading comes from Rose King. For days I have sat and thought about how and what I wanted to post. I try to keep politics off my social media accounts, so I wanted to share my experiences this week. And I wanted to start with saying I'm a very fortunate individual here. On Tuesday night, after 45 minutes of terror, hiding under my table alone, my husband, a detective in the Israeli police, left his shift to bring me to Jerusalem. Why? I suffer from PTSD. I consider myself recovered because I went years without having symptoms. But when my house shook with the first explosions overhead, my PTSD was triggered. My husband knew I needed to be in a safe place, and I'm fortunate enough to have my parents in Jerusalem and can escape to somewhere safe. Jerusalem, for the most part, is safe. Safe from rockets, that is. I thought it would be gone for the night. Here I am, still in Jerusalem. I cannot return home. I cannot be with my husband. He is out there in the danger, trying to protect all people. I get to speak with him sporadically and just pray for his safety. I haven't slept well. I sleep in 2-hour increments if I am lucky. I check for rockets and check for my husband's safety. We are at war. It's not just the rockets. There are riots in major cities, synagogues and restaurants looted and burned to the ground, attacks on soldiers, and the quote-unquote normal terrorist attacks that have ramped up. There are some extremists on the Israeli side that have committed terrible acts against Arabs, but they are not the majority, and I am disgusted at that behavior. No matter what I am doing, I'm thinking about how at any moment there will be more rockets. I'm thinking about how in the South, they have been under nonstop fire for almost a week. Despite all this, what is most upsetting to me is the amount of anti-Israel propaganda I see. Not only we're fighting a war within our own borders, we are fighting a war with the world. This war is about our right to defend ourselves against a known terrorist organization. This war is about Israel's right to existence in 2021. It's the new wave of a world war that is fought in the media. It's terrifying. I'm sharing with you my experience to put a human face to what is going on here. You might be asking, what can you do? I ask you to stop the spread of misinformation, to try and help us combat the war we are fighting with the world. Pray for peace on both sides. Pray for humanity. Most of us, Arab and Israeli, just want to live in peace and coexistence.
From the Jerusalem Post. Saed Musa, father of 4 from Ramla, was on his way to enjoy some fresh air at the beach. His car was standing in traffic when he was identified as Arab by hooligans who attacked him. I was going to the beach, he says. Someone came to my car and asked me, "What, are you an Arab?" I told him, "Yes." Is there a problem with that? After that, 30 people ganged up on my car, he recounted. I didn't know I was going to come back like this to my kids, he said, pointing to the bruises on his face. Why am I to blame? What did I do to deserve this? Is it my fault I was born an Arab? Despite the assault, Musa called for peace between Jews and Arabs. We're all human beings. We're all living together. A long time, he said.
An article from the Jerusalem Post. The rocket shard that killed his 5-year-old son Ido should have taken his life instead, Father Assaf Abigail said, just before the body of his son was tucked into the ground in the cemetery. I want to ask your forgiveness, he said to his son. I'm sorry that I wasn't able to protect you. I'm sorry that this shard hit you, my son, instead of me, Assaf said in a tearful voice. Just a few days ago, his son Ido had asked him what one needs to do if a warning siren sounds when they are outside. I said, Ido, my son, any time that you are with me, you are protected, Assaf recalled. He added, I lied. In Ido's absence, he said, I will live with a hole in my heart for eternity. To other parents, he said, spend more time with your children. Hug them a lot. I understand this only too late, he said. Assaf ended his eulogy for his son by wishing for an end to the violence. I hope he said that you are the last sacrifice. I hope that this is the last time that a parent buries his child.
Friends, we invite you to please turn back to your program where we find a responsive concluding prayer. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom. May we lay down tonight and every night, and may we rise up tomorrow and every tomorrow in peace, O God, renewed with reverence for life. Baruch atah Adonai, blessed is the God who desires peace among us, among all your people, in Jerusalem, in Israel, and in all places. Friends, as we begin to draw our service to a close, we're going to join together in a prayer for peace. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. May the one who causes peace to reign in the high heavens cause peace to descend upon us, upon Israel, upon all of God's children. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imeru imru amen. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. And friends, the words of Hatikva, Israel's national anthem, are in your program. We invite you at home and all who are here under the tent to please rise, and you can turn toward the flag or toward the east as we sing together. Kol od balevav penima, nefesh Yehudi homiya, ulefate mizrach kadima, ayin letzion Sophia. Od lo avda tikvatenu, atikva bashnot alpayim, liotam hofshi be'artzenu Liodam Chofshi Be'artzeinu Be'eretz Zion V'Yerushalayim.
Friends, you may be seated. With the singing of the Israeli national anthem, the Hope, we conclude our gathering, our service, our worship, our hopes, our prayers. And I pray that you'll continue from your hearts and to listen to the voices that we heard today. I want to take a moment to thank Shana Sheffrin for her voice, Rabbi Mimi Wiesel, Nina Levitt, who shared so beautifully today, Rabbi Gutman, and most especially to Rabbi Elaine Rose Gutman, who compiled all of our readings today and advocates so diligently for goodness in our world. On behalf of the temple, a quick few announcements before we have a chance to greet one another with greetings and blessings of peace. Tonight at 8 o'clock, we begin the holiday of Shavuot, and as is tradition, we will do some Torah study together. Your three rabbis have prepared some fun stuff, so please join us at 8 o'clock on Zoom. Tomorrow morning, we'll be having our festival worship service for Shavuot, which includes Yizkor. Please join us online as well. We'll be doing it on our live stream. And if you haven't already, I want to invite you. Thursday, an email went out from the temple. I know you got a lot this week. There was a lot of information to communicate. This Thursday, an email went out with a plea for a quick survey. And when I say quick, I mean like 4.5 questions. Boom, 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 done. About your practices and where you're at with COVID. We want to know so that we can make appropriate plans to serve our community in the right way going forward. And now is the right time to ask those questions. So please, your email on Thursday, please take a moment to fill out that survey. And with those words, anything else, Rabbi? Sounds good? God bless you all, and may there be peace throughout our world, and may we live to see the day where there is peace throughout our world. Together, let us say, Amen. Chag Sameach, everyone.
And I also want to tell you, we already have 60 people registered for our Israel trip coming up in March. So this temple will be there. And Ken Marsh is doing okay. A lot of people ask. Ken Marsh is doing okay.
Is he coming? Is he going to be able to come?
He doesn't know yet, yeah.
But he's safe? Okay.
Friends that are volunteering with the chairs to help, thank you so much. Anybody who'd like to, please feel free.